All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Troy Gregory. Troy, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for taking the time to bring me on and making the time out of your day to make this happen.
You
As a
bet.
person that's in the same field as you, I do know what it takes to make this happen, and all the work that has to go in behind the scenes. So, again,
Yeah.
very much. I appreciate it.
Well, you're so welcome, and I've been looking forward to this. You and I, we got connected through our mutual friend Marcus Newcomb, and Marcus, man, that guy's such a great guy, and he's a guy who has such a huge heart, and he's he does interviews too. He kind of I don't know that I'd call it a podcast, but he definitely interviews people. He's got a very unique style of communicating and stuff, and I really thoroughly enjoyed the process of going through that experience with him and stuff. And I would imagine you've been through it too, correct, Troy?
Yes, I have. Yes, I
Yeah.
have been through it as well. Amazing time. It just flows with conversation. It's really good. I will say that in terms of guiding the conversation and knowing how to pivot if needed, is great. And I think that he does an amazing job, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure. Well, what I want to do is, I'm just gonna have we're just gonna have a heart-to-heart conversation today, Troy, and we'll just start off by I'll ask you a simple question to get us going, and we'll just kind of dig in deeper from there. And we'll start with, what do you do, Troy, and who do you serve?
so what I do is I believe in innovation and human connection simultaneously. So I will go ahead and break that down. So on one
Yeah.
side, we have the Ghost Project, which is an innovative slash creative solutions hub for small businesses and creatives, where we take their ideas and bring them to life. Ideation and materialization, right? Ideation of thinking how the idea could come into play, and the materialization of bringing that idea into life or bring it to life, right? On the flip side, or before I get on to the flip side, I would like to say the Ghost Project believes that an idea could change the fate of tomorrow for a better day. And the way that we're doing that is with Human. And Human is a multimedia platform where we encourage people to find truth in another person's perspective, bringing people together one culture at a time, forming a global community. So that's where the international journalism part comes into play, where I have a platform where people can come on and tell their life story without constraints. I think a lot of people sometimes when they're interviewing people, they tend to like put constraints. It's only a certain amount of time, and respectfully, that's to that person's schedule, right? And it also probably fits the other person's schedule that's coming on to be interviewed. But me, I decided in my brain that I think putting a time constraint on somebody's life story, in my opinion, is disrespectful to what their story is and truly can be if you give them the time to fully complete what they need to say. Even if their answers run on for a while, it's up to you as the interviewer to guide them back into the direction or the conversation and where it can head or where it's heading, right?
Yeah.
So, who do I serve? We serve humanity. That is it's cool, but it's also complex, right? On one side, it's cool because you get so many different perspectives, so many different cultures, so many different ways of life and meanings to life, right? Which means different for every culture and every person around the world, and the individuality you get to experience. But on the flip side, the complex is that, as a person that owns this platform, I feel like people expect me to cover almost everything without truly acknowledging that I'm one person, covering certain news topics, which I don't necessarily do. I cover life, right? This person's life. Another thing is we see on the internet that a lot of major platforms kind of exchange people. Well, I don't want that to necessarily be the case. I know I'm kind of doing that with different platforms right now, but I want my platform to stay the way it is, right? Stay true to the people, right? And giving them a voice. I think that is very important. Oftentimes, as a person that used to be homeless, right, people are overlooked. I know what it feels like to be overlooked, not seen, and not heard. It's a very dangerous space to occupy mentally for some, right? So I just wanted to say, who do I serve? I serve the people in general, creatives and small businesses as a whole, small businesses and creatives with the Ghost Project, and the people of the world with human.
Very good. So now I'm curious, based on what you shared, Troy, what's the longest interview that you've done with someone?
The longest interview I've done with someone is 3 hours and 38 minutes.
Wow, pretty substantial there for sure. You got Joe Rogan beat, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I beat a lot of people that day for sure. um, the interview was beautiful. If you go on our YouTube, it is on our YouTube channel. The young lady's name I might butcher by accident because I am not directly aligned with her culture in terms of the pronunciation.
Okay.
Her name is Basara Rahim, and she's Muslim. And it was just beautiful what she talked about divine remembrance, really remembering self through the journey of the soul. And also when she prayed, actually, because during the interview she had to pray. Being Muslim, they have to pray a certain amount of times a day. And so she literally took a step back from the camera, went off, prayed, and then came back. Which I thought was very interesting, right? Within the interview, it showed the dedication that this
Yeah.
person has to their beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Yet and still giving you a really understandable, like not only staying true to her beliefs, but making it digestible for other people to understand her beliefs and how her beliefs even tie into the scope of the world, right? On a spiritual scale and what that looks like. So if an interview does run that long, it's for very, very good reason.
Yeah.
Uh, I do not, and now I don't cut nobody's life story short, but some people are shorter than others.
Yeah.
Some people have only a certain amount to present. Doesn't mean it's negative. You can have a powerful interview within an hour. Um, but again, I let their story breathe. And hers, I just had so much questions, man. So much curiosity was there on my end as the interviewer. So,
Wow. Very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
What inspires you most about the work you do and the impact that you make, Troy?
Mhm. What inspires me most is evolution beside purpose, right? Evolution, uh, to see the existence of the human essence
Mhm.
evolve to a certain level, right? That is part of even what human is, right? Like I told you, the first meaning of what human is through the mission statement. But
Yeah.
the second meaning of human is to preserve humanity or the essence of humanity in the face of technological advancement, right? For those who don't know, there are a lot of people who are in this AI field and field of robotics who want to see transhumanism come to pass, which is the
Okay.
integration of robotics into the human body. And they say that this is evolution. I tend to disagree. If we don't use more than 9 to 10% of our brains, how are we integrating with something else to call that evolution when we still haven't figured out how to unlock what is already there? Right.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think that presents its own problem, but that's part of the evolutionary part I'm talking about. And how it blends into purpose is um, I always know whether I was homeless or not, that there was something greater for me to do,
Okay.
something that I needed to do on a great scale, right? Some people are like, hey, don't turn into a martyr for this, right? You don't have to. But if that's what's required, then that's where my purpose has brought me. And I'm not afraid to go in that direction as well,
Mhm.
right? But I know that somebody has to do something. And that's part of my purpose. Even if it's not fighting necessarily on the front lines, I think it's being able to influence and spark the mind that could probably not necessarily fight on the front lines, but the mind that could provide change, even if I'm not the person directly providing change.
Yeah.
Then we have to look at what change looks like, right? I think that's a very interesting thing. How do we label change? How do we define change? Right? What does that look like? So for me, I know the change that I want to see, I'm actively working towards. But what people don't speak about when it comes to purpose is not necessarily, let me phrase this in a way that I feel like is best. When it comes to purpose, there's a double-edged sword. On one side, there's the bright side. It looks beautiful. You know that you're fulfilling, you're doing what you got to do. On the flip side of that, it's the weight that you have to carry, the responsibility you have to carry,
Mhm.
and what that all entails. You might not be able to live life the way you see other people living life. Like right now, I don't live life the way that I used to live life, going out on the time, taking part in certain extracurricular activities. Now I live life on a certain pathway. For the most part, I still dwindle a little bit, hence me being human, right? But at the same time, it's a responsibility. And then people don't know about the compounded responsibility when other people see it, right? They're like, yeah, you're supposed to be something great, man. You got to live up to that. It's the
Yeah.
daunting of the greatness. Like, oh, if he didn't live up to that, then what was he doing? He let his talents go to waste, or things of that nature, especially within this capitalistic society where people are like, hey, if you could make 1 million, why aren't you doing it? But who said everybody wants to necessarily make $1 million, right? So I think purpose is a double-edged sword as
Yeah.
to what it can look like, and depending on how we view which side of the coin, which I believe it's important to view both.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. And, Troy, I was having a conversation with my friend Vincent a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about, because I get to be this connector and conduit of trust for some amazing entrepreneurs. And I love holding that role. I love being the guy who brings the right entrepreneurs together to have the right conversations for the right reasons. And yet, like you said, that also comes with a lot of responsibility. I'm always looking when I'm making introductions, I'm always looking at it as like, okay, is this going to further the relationship that I have with both of these people and stuff?
Mhm.
And Vincent, he kind of made the comment. He's like, Kevin, it's like a blessing and a curse, just like what you just said, Troy. There's yeah, it's great, but then there's the other side too that like it does. I don't know that I feel a lot of weight around it, but I am definitely extremely protective of the relationships that I have with people in my life and stuff. And if I'm going to connect them with somebody, I want them coming back to me going, "Wow, Kev, thanks so much for connecting me with so and so." I don't want them coming back going, "Man, Kev, what were you thinking on that?" So I don't want that.
I've had that happen to me. I've had that happen. I was the guy on the other end where I had to call the other guy and be like, hey, man, this
Uh-huh.
guy is stepping out of bounds. It was for a website deal that I was working on at the time, and a guy overstepped his. He definitely overstepped in terms of respect and the boundaries that I have in place for that. It was just crazy. Like threatening me and cursing me out for no reason, and I was like,
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
trying to work with you because he thought that I was going to work underneath him. And I was like,
Okay.
that's another thing I want to address, the plight of being independent within the entrepreneurial space, right? What that looks like. Like, I've been independent for a while. I don't foresee myself bowing down or to greater entities, right? There's a reason why I specialize in ideas and why I want to preserve ideas, right? In the face of this capitalistic society that's constantly taking ideas and, excuse my language, but pimping them out. So how can we claim what is ours, right? As creatives and as innovators and as entrepreneurs, in a place that's constantly like, hey, sell this, sell that, do this, do that, So I will just say that it's very interesting, the plight of being an entrepreneur. During this interview, I wanted to make sure that I not only highlighted the great parts, right, but also highlight the parts that reality is in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Reality is based in that things are difficult sometimes.
Yep.
I just took a break recently. I took like a 2 day, 3 day break. I can't take too much, time away. But I did take a break because you need it. And, for those who are out there that will be watching this, it's important that you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Even if
Absolutely.
you're leading a team, like I'm leading a team right now for the first time in a very long time. And I know, like, hey, man, I got to kind of stay on this and stay on that. But how can I be my best if, I'm not taking time for myself as well? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, how did you even get in to doing the work that you do now, Troy? What's your backstory? You know, when I was a kid, I remember I wanted to be a fireman. I never became a fireman, and nor did I ever imagine doing what I actually do now either. But I sure am glad that I found this path, you know, and I imagine you are too.
Oh yes, I'm very grateful that I found this path. So the Human and Ghost Project are two different things, right? Just to be fair. So they both have kind of separate stories.
Okay,
Um, the Ghost Project was an idea that I thought of that I was like,
okay,
let me put the real work in on this. I started when I was homeless, actually. I was homeless in Florida first. I started losing my place in Florida and then I jumped to San Francisco. So right before I left, I was talking to a friend of mine and we were like, let's come up with the Ghost Project, which originally was supposed to be a drum and bass podcast uh,
okay,
against the European drum and bass, an American drum and bass podcast where we produce drum and bass music and then put it out because I was in the electronic scene for a very long time.
okay.
So I'm very privy to electronic music, right? And how that's constructed and how what it looks like. And yeah, it was supposed to be that. And then I took a trip to San Francisco. Things got really crazy in my life. I started developing the idea despite of everything I was going through. Didn't stick with it as much as I would have liked to at that time because I had to fight the elements. I was homeless out there for 6 months. I then came back to Florida. Some way I just wound up going like that. And then when I came back to Florida, um, me and somebody went into throwing events together. He wound up getting me for about like $1,000. And I then started the company after that. So it was almost born out of the need for protection, legitimate protection with contracts and almost a vengefulness, kind of, to be honest, at that time. I was young, I was hurt. I was like, okay, this is not going to happen again. So I went ahead and did it with him again. We went back into business a second time, doubled the people in attendance, and then tripled the money, right? And so I wound up keeping the whole pot because he wound up doing something that was passing a heavy boundary for the company and how I run things. And in a weird way, it's almost like he received his karma, right? You originally took from me, I then not necessarily took from you, but legitimately made sure that I was able to keep what I made, right? Um, Whatever the case may be, as time grew on, I kept throwing events. I threw a glow in the dark festival with the Ghost Project called Incandescence the Nightwalker Festival um, in Orlando, Florida, and they put me on NPR. It's my first time I had ever heard of NPR. They called me. I don't even know to this day how they got my number.
Wow.
You know, that's how the cookie crumbled there. But continuing down this pathway, um, I did the editing of film, special effects, narration. I did everything kind of low key and in house, just to show what my creative, how far my creative willpower can go in terms of, hey, I can do all of this. I was young. I felt like I needed to prove something, right, to what was going on because when I was in Orlando, I didn't really feel welcomed, and it was just weird how certain people and cliques and communities was moving. So after that, I got out the event space because it seems like people were trying to like lock me down, and I didn't like that. I didn't like the interactions I was having with people. I was becoming very like disturbed. So one day, Human came. Now, the difference between Human, like I said in the magazine before, there's a difference between ideas you think of, like the Ghost Project, and ideas that come to you, right? And Human was an idea that came to me. I drew the logo first, and from me designing the logo, I still had the Ghost Project, but I was fitting Human into it, and I was like, well, what does this look like? So I went to a friend of mine, told him about, hey, I got this idea called Human, and he was like, okay, you can have a 15-minute segment on my show. I was like, all right, cool. I didn't know what it was going to be. I was just going to
Uh-huh.
do something. So his show tanked before it could take off. So I wind up taking the hour that he was supposed to have at the college radio station. And I started doing interviews. At first, it was me and a co-host. When I was homeless in Cali, I knew this young lady, and she used to be my boss. But
Okay.
I guess she couldn't wrap her mind around the fact that roles had changed, and it caused some friction between us because also she was over talking the guests. So I decided it was best, and the guests were complaining to me. So I
Okay.
decided, hey, it's best if we part ways. And then I went and ran Human as a solo project. Um, I then started doing interviews more and more and more. I then took human off of the college radio station when COVID hit. A lady had warned me that the school could claim human as its intellectual property because we were using their platform, and I did
Oh,
not
okay.
happen. So when COVID hit, it became the perfect excuse to pull away and to establish human on its own outside of everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I established human, I established the website, established a couple of other things. And one of the great things that came out of that reestablishment of human was human campfire sessions, which was a global discussion between multiple people around the world about different subject matters
Mhm.
that either affect us now or affect us in the span of our existence, you know? Seven participants. You can have musicians on, you have presenters, and then you have the main five or six or seven people that's going to be part of the main conversation, but they're allowed to have dual roles. So they're allowed to be the main person that's one of the main people that's talking and a performer, or they're allowed to be one of the main people that's talking and a presenter, but they cannot be more than two out of the three.
Okay.
And so establishing that was beautiful because it brought so many different people around and a lot of people so many different people together, and a lot of people really loved it. It's still there in the background right now. Like I said, I have a team and I'm working on figuring out what certain things look like once again moving forward, because you can only grow this type of platform so so much on your own, and it
Uh-huh.
costs to do that with energy, right? The energy I have is not necessarily limited, but you got to sleep sometime. I have to go to work. I still have to work a 9 to 5 job. And so, there's things I have to take into account. So now I have a small team and we're getting ready to push forward from here. But that's how they both came to be, the Ghost Project on one end and Human on the other. But the journey remained the same of overall knowing that an idea can be a real game changer
Yeah.
in somebody's personal life and in the ways of the world.
Yeah. And it sounds like for you personally, it's been extremely rewarding and fulfilling too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a way, it saves my life in a way, right?
Okay.
Um, of course, I'll still have something to live for. I'm still Troy with or without human or with or without the Ghost Project. But these are part of my purpose, you know, to continue pushing forward. Trust me, it's not easy. I mean, just recently, over a month ago, I just came off of like a 6 month hiatus almost. I was still doing other things
Okay.
um, here and there, but I had to take a step back and just really live life for a second or try to figure out what living looks like for me, right? But the way I was going about it, it's not like I didn't like it necessarily. I was like, well, this is not fulfilling. So human, the Ghost Project give me fulfillment. But like I said before, that fulfillment comes with two different sides, the good side and the side that is daunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So now that we've got some context set here and people have a little bit of an idea of what you're all about, Troy, I want to switch gears just a little bit and I want to start talking about the relationship side of this. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
So I'm going to address this from a more big scale
Okay.
about basically everybody you talk to in your life leads up to this moment in which you are presently, right? For good, for bad, for indifferent.
Yep.
So because I was homeless for so long, and I was always encouraged by those who I was homeless with. Not every single person had the best intentions, but most of them, I was very fortunate, saw something in me and was like, you can do better. An example was a while back, right? This was years ago. I was partying really hard at the time.
Okay.
I was homeless in New York. We were going to raves, and I have a homegirl. Her name is Kush for now, but
Okay.
I believe her real name is Amber. I haven't spoken to her in a while. But this homegirl came one day and cried with me, right? And she was crying with me because I had fell into drug usage a lot at that time. And I was taking so much of a certain substance that you find at raves that it was affecting my ability to walk. It had zapped the fluid in my lower vertebrae and my discs were rubbing together. Now I'm young, at this time. I'm probably like my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And she was just like, I don't want to see you throw your life away of this. I don't want to see this basically eat you alive, you know, you are better than this. And she cried, and I cried with her too. We stood there and talked for about almost an hour, maybe 2 hours. And I'm be honest, till this day, I tell her, um, especially the last time I spoke with her was like maybe a year ago or
Okay.
maybe less. But regardless, I gave her where credit is due. I was like, hey man, you know, when you did what you did that day, that really changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
But I don't want to only just give her credit. I want to give credit to everyone that I have interacted with for good, for bad, and indifferent, because it makes me who I am today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Lessons that had to be learned. The people that encouraged me, the people who still encourage me. There's another lady, without me disclosing her identity, I like to respect her privacy. But I call her the Oracle, right? Based upon the Matrix philosophy. Um, she is literally like the embodiment of the Oracle itself. She is my guide, you know, predominantly through spiritual, through psychological. We've been friends. I call her almost like a mother, not almost, and she is like
Okay.
a mother to me, you know. Um, we've been in contact for maybe 12 years. I don't know
Okay.
the exact number, but it's definitely over 10 by now.
Okay.
And so, these long lasting friendships, they last long for a reason,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
both parties are able to, get it together and connect on so many various levels, right? I'm a
Yeah.
deep and complex individual. And so sometimes people get me, sometimes they don't, but she understood me from jump,
Wow.
and the way we met was unique because I was homeless once again, and I was in Florida this time. And somebody that I happened to be with earlier in the day, because I didn't know this person, but he wound up swinging around and kind of making her and her homegirl at the time feel very uncomfortable. Like he was going to do something, and I swung around the corner and was like, "Yeah, but that's not really happening on my watch." So from there, we became cool. That's how we met, actually. I was out there defending her or standing by her side to make sure that she was safe. So
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Wow.
So again, I want to give credit to so many people, especially with human. There's a technique that I call spider web networking,
Uh-huh.
where you meet a person, but they can have their own web of people, and then
Hmm.
they introduce you to the web of people, and then you meet someone else, and they introduce you to a web of people, and
Yep.
so I've been known to do that very efficiently. So.
Very good. Very good. So, what is an example of a situation where you personally, Troy, got to make this really substantial impact, and maybe in the moment, maybe it even surprised you a little bit, but you also know that would have never been possible if not for your relationship with either one of the people that you've mentioned here. What's an example of like that where you were empowered in that way because of a relationship?
Mhm. There's a lot actually. So let's just say the relationship that I'm talking about with the Oracle,
Uh,
um, she empowers me to continue pushing forward,
okay.
as a whole. Um, there's not only one particular instance, it's just as a whole. Again, I think that I've ran across so many people that have had impacts. But I will say right now, I'm working on the possibility because I met someone and they heard what I do. There's this lady that I met on a networking app.
Okay.
And she loves what I do. And so she wants to introduce me to someone else to go on TED Talk. Right.
Okay.
So that I can say would lead to a great impact, right? When I was younger and I was in group homes and in and out of different various situations, some of the people in these facilities gave me a chance to just speak, give
Yeah.
speeches, which in turn prepares me for now, public speaking, right? Being
Yeah.
able to represent myself now in front of you, right? And talk to you how I am today. So
Mhm.
again, I would say that I like to not only give credit to one or two people or three people because it's bigger than that. It's the interconnectedness of all things, right? As we would like to say, being holistic, and that's the way that I see my life in terms of the people I've come across, for
Yeah.
good, for bad, or for indifferent, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What's your vision for Human and for Ghost Project going forward, Troy?
The Ghost Project, I want to stay private. I'm even at, I was thinking about, hey, maybe I can make a website, and I'm like, no, 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 no. I think I want the Ghost Project to be exactly what it sounds like, a
Mhm.
Ghost Project. You don't know that we're around. You don't know that we were behind certain things. Not necessarily to hide anything, because people like they get a little skeptical. But when you're dealing with the protection of ideas, you also don't want to be on Front Street, that you don't want everybody to be in your business, right? Literally, because I've seen ideas get stolen,
Yeah.
right? Straight up. Sad story. There was this company I worked for called Launchable, just to show people an example. Launchable was the AR company, augmented reality company. So I've been in and out of tech for some years now, but I'm not like deep, like in terms of coding and things of that nature. But whatever the case may be, there was this guy who came around. It was a millionaire, and the head of the company, he had convinced the head of the company some way somehow to let him into the operations and into the bank account and all this stuff. I guess he was putting some money in, and he was looking to get something back. And a couple of transactions were going on. I wasn't really privy to what was happening like that. But one
Uh-huh.
day, I remember I stayed away from them for a little while. Something had happened between me and the owner, and I kind of didn't like the way he handled it. And so I came back and I noticed that half the team was gone. And I
Okay.
was like, what's going on? Come to find out, the millionaire had took half of his team away and broke the company in half. They were
Wow.
looking at something called Alice. Alice was going to be, I think it was one of the most profound ideas at play at that time when augmented reality
Yeah.
was coming up. I was like, this is actually a good one. They had two different products, but Alice was a good one. And so I just see that the guy just snatched that half of the company, didn't even stay true to it. They didn't even keep the idea, stripped the idea down and rebuilt his own idea on it. And it was
Wow.
like, what? Like, why would you
Wow.
do that? And so the person that betrayed Alfred was his name, the
Mhm.
main guy. His best friend betrayed him with the millionaire, with
Yeah.
the millionaire, and
Yeah.
split, because his best friend had a lot of stake in the operation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really shocked me. It was like, oh wow. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean by me saying that I witnessed ideas get stolen, and now the person who owned that company, Launchable, he now works for Facebook. That's the route he decided. It's not wrong or right or necessarily indifferent, right? But I will say that I feel like I feel like that tore him in a way that he might not understand to this day. And
Mhm.
just watching that happen to people is devastating. So
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the Ghost Project, I want to leave that again private. I'm doing web design now for people behind closed curtains, dealing with those clients. And I want the Ghost Project to continue to be able to put together ideas that both move humanity forward, preserve humanity, and placate to our level of innovation and evolution that can take place. Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I see in the future for the Ghost Project.
Okay.
As far as human goes, for human, I want to start to take what I'm doing global and flying around the world. I know
Okay.
people around the world, and so I have people that I can reach out to in different countries. I've never really left a bad taste in most people's mouths. So it wouldn't be hard for me to reach out to them and tell them, hey, I'm coming to your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
How can we meet up? How can you show me something? Who can you introduce me to that can speak English and still stay true to where they're at in the country they're in, right? Because that's how I interview people anyway. I find people from different places around the world, and then I interview them in their actual place, even though it's through the net. They're actually, and that was very important to me when establishing Human, because I
Okay.
know a whole bunch of people that are here in America that I could interview, but it's different. I feel like in a way, right? Versus a person that's actually in their country. But so
Uh-huh.
for Human, um, I see that Human, I would like to take it global in a physical sense, go from place to place around the world, and do interviews. I also want to take campfire sessions and make it real. I want to see campfire sessions come to fruition where we're actually doing campfire sessions on a global scale, and it's an actual campfire. And then there's a third idea that's extreme, but it's using AR technology to make the clothing, because I have a clothing line, I have the
Uh-huh.
trademark, come alive. And I'll leave it at that. I want to
Okay.
leave that idea a little bit more private, but there's a reason why I want that to happen. I want it to where you will be able to hold your phone up and you could just click into an interview and using your own using the clothing itself, without
Wow.
having to necessarily open up the app, right? But these are ideas, right,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out there right now. And then last but not least, this one is important, and I don't mind saying this one out loud because it's a weight to carry. Like I was telling somebody else earlier today, all the interviews that I've done, right, the ones that I still have, I have them backed up, right, saved on a disc, right. What I want to do is take that and put it in a time capsule and have it to where I could send the interviews to that time capsule until we're done, or until, God forbid, I pass away or something happens, right? That the interviews are there and buried somewhere across the world where 300 years from now, I'm hoping to have that time capsule found and to have people be able to watch the interview. Whatever is left here, as I joke, I don't know what it's going to look like. Robot man together. I don't know what that's going to look like. But
Yeah.
yeah, I want that to be the case. The time capsule where you open it and you're like, wow, these stories existed at that time.
Yeah.
This is stuff of real
Yeah.
people.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
things, the last things I do want for Human, it's a lot to carry again. You
Mhm.
know, um, I've experienced a lot. I've seen a lot. I do know of a lot. Thank goodness I don't know it all. People think they want to know it all, but trust me, it's a very difficult weight to carry. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I will say that. Yeah, that's that in a nutshell. That's what I hope
Yep.
for the future of Human in the Ghost Project, and I continuously pray and put out there that it will spark a understanding amongst people that's heavily needed. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Um, Troy, for anybody who might be listening to this thinking, man, Kev, I really like Troy and I like how he shows up and some of the stuff he shared really has me thinking. Is there a website, any, resources we can share with folks?
yes, well, I will. I know that we spoke about links.
Yes. Yeah.
www.hvman, human with the V where the U is supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
dot
Mm-hmm.
world, right, is my website. I do have a YouTube channel that will also be attached
Yep.
to this interview as well. What I'll do is I also have a LinkedIn. And if you're not on LinkedIn, I do have almost everything, right? You can find me on Instagram, Facebook. The way that you find Human on Instagram is the same way as you can find the website is human.world. I did that on purpose. So that way it's very easy to find all of our stuff because it's all
Very
attached.
good.
And so there's that. Um, and yeah, I also have a meeting link if people would like to click that. I will also share that with the public. I'll give that to
Okay.
you as well. Um, but yeah, that's that. You could reach me that way, yes. And my
Perfect.
email address as well, last but not least, for Human is wise truth at human.world, HVMAN.world, wise truth, one word spelling, WISETRUTH.
Okay.
at human.world. So just for those who want to reach out to me directly on the basis of human, and
Okay.
this project is paranormal.intuition@gmail.com, which when you
Okay.
type it in, it switches over to the Ghost Project. So I learned how
Oh,
to, it's like a magic thing where you could put a title in it, once the person types it in, it'll flip it. So
very cool. Well, so if you're listening to this and you're looking for those links, they're right below here in the show notes. All those the links are going to be included there for you, so you can check those out. Troy, is there any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
yes, actually, I want to say thank you to both Marcus and yourself, Kevin. That's one. Two, I want people to know that being human is complex. You're not necessarily one dimensional. There's a lot of things that take place internally, and it's okay. It's difficult sometimes. It's easy, feels easy sometimes. Sometimes it feels beautiful. Sometimes it feels dark. But these are all components of who you are that matter. So definitely when you're talking to someone else or even talking to yourself, right, internally, uh, be compassionate and
Yeah,
remember that we are all human, you
that's
know,
right.
those on the internal and external, especially on the external when dealing with people day to day. I know it's not easy, you know,
Yeah,
I'm not perfect, and accepting those flaws are equally as important as showing the greatness that you are, right?
that's right.
Um,
That's right.
so that's what I want to leave people with. I think that it's important that people hear the reality of things,
Yeah,
not so much the shiny object or the shiny half of what that thing looks like and provides.
yeah,
This is very important. That's part of the reason why I'm grateful that you gave me the space to be myself. Like I tell people on Human, we give people the space to be themselves because we're living in a world where we're so constricted at times.
yeah,
And please know that there's people out there that are fighting the good fight, right? And fighting doesn't always necessarily mean violence. It means positioning yourself. It means trying to provide change in whichever way you can,
yeah,
right? Please continue to try to do so. You're not alone. I'm here. Several other people are here with me. And trust me, I know it's not easy,
yeah.
but we can level the playing field. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Troy, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thank you so much, man.
you're very welcome. Yes, indeed.